Right. Good morning, and thank you for coming. But I don't think you will fall asleep because you just woke up, right? 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago. Okay. All right. Let me just begin on the. I think this year is the most exciting year. I've been involved in the enterprise architecture in the last 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. Yeah. I started off actually when I was doing at the time during the Java era. That's where the so-called the architects pop up, right? I remember back then about 20 years ago, I think Apple put like they call it evangelist. Then after that, Java was very very hot, and then Java got Java certified architects. That was I think the first time I recall the architect certification. But that was in the programming world. After that involved of course Open Group, IASA, and etc. Okay, so now about enterprise architecture leadership in driving digital transformation and innovation. I think today we don't call it driving a system, many projects. We don't talk about project anymore. We're talking about capability, innovation, and etc. Because that one bring value. Yeah. Of course, now I want to start with a question. I'm not talking about disruption, but we want to know about something, about your position today, your organization. Where are you? Are you able to disrupt others? So all your competitor, you just put them, tickle them, and you make fun of them. Can you afford to do that? Not sure yet. Okay, only those fintech company can do that. The one that they don't have brick and mortar, they have all the so-called internet technology company that they can tickle the brick and mortar, the big one, right? Because to perform certain tasks, they only have 10 people. Brick or mortar got 10,000 people. How you compete? Of course, the second one is being disrupted. This is where most of us being disrupted. I think 2 weeks ago, Monetary Authority of Singapore released a study that 2/3 of the financial services job will disappear in the next 5 years. Very fast. If you are now at the age of 55, I think that's safe. Right? By the time you got retirement package, go home. Play with your grandchildren. But if you are now in the 20s, worried. Okay? How can we catch up? So that we can be relevant. Right? Otherwise we become irrelevant. Of course, the next one is self-disrupt. After we can manage the whole thing, we can start challenging ourselves. Okay, last year we achieved this. Can we do more? Can we do more? Okay? This is something that triggering the whole ecosystem on the digital transformation. Yeah? Of course, now the complexity is humongous. Right? The method that we have been using in the last 20 years, it doesn't work anymore today. Why? Because if you see the map here, they call it inside in, inside out, outside in, outside out, or inside out. Basically, it's many to many, endless connectivity, integration, inter-department, intra-department, inside and outside. So, how do you overcome this complexity? The answer is, you need to have the map, isn't it? You need to know what's going on. I need to know the whole connectivity. I need to show it in the digital way. You cannot talk anymore. Last time you can talk with client server, I know like 1 or 2 applications, I know. Now it's 1 to 1,000. How are you going to draw in the whiteboard? Oh, impossible. Right? So many enterprises are still having dilemma. How to overcome this? I think this morning we have just now have a CIO discussion. Interestingly, I think is the person here, Krishna, no, from someone from the State Bank. Then he mentioned that the management expectation in the past, when you set up the infrastructure, what is the fastest way to set up infrastructure data center? 6 to 1 year, normal, right? You have to design the whole thing, after that procure, set up, testing, everything, 6 to 1 year. Now in the cloud era, how long will it take? 6 to 10 minutes. What? Click here, click there, click, confirm. Enter credit card. That's it, start dealing. So morning talking about the design, the whole data center setup. Afternoon, up and running. Right? If you don't use the digital approach, what happened? We've been talking since late 2017, now 2019. Even now what to do, they said, let's do it after Raya. 2 years. Right? This is the reality. Business can't wait. 2 years people can do more things already. Yeah? And of course this is another irony that we have been doing. It's not that we do nothing. We do something, but if you map it into the map, into the box, this is what happened. Many gap, repetition, and etc. Even the same organization, right? So how can we be successful in digital transformation? Of course, we take the advice from Gartner. Okay, you like it or not, Gartner is what they call it, fortune teller of the industry, with the 99.99% accuracy. By the way, I'm not from Gartner yet, but that's what happened. Everybody believes Gartner is a god. Whatever they say, just listen to them. Okay, so it has been predicted that you want to be successful, go through go through the enterprise architecture way. Yeah, and of course, these some of the analysts, they use the word transformer. Nice, isn't it? Anyone don't like the Transformer movie? Nice. The car can become a robot. And interestingly, got the bad robot and the good robot, right? Bad transformer and good transformer. So the same thing in the world of the enterprise. Now, how fast you can transform? That's the key question. Not saying you talk a lot. I know people can talk a lot, but how long? What is the speed to transform? Yeah. And of course, now how do we navigate the disruption? So that we know when they're coming at this particular services or product, what are the things that we need to re-architect? Yeah, it's the same thing like you have the map of the house or the building. If anything on fire and you know which door to shut down, which house to secure, which window, which route to block, etc. If you have the map, if you don't have, good luck. By the time you ask someone, everything already flat. Yeah? And of course, innovation is very, very key. Yeah, this is also another Gartner on the digital disruption and innovation. That enterprise architecture can leverage on that. And of course, this is about the aeroplane, right? This is about the meta model, the structure of the digital aeroplane. You want to repair the aeroplane, you want to change particular parts, you better have the map, you know. Because what happens when you change particular part, that part can disrupt others, you know. So now I want you to map this back into your enterprise. Do you have that map? So if I change something, I know the impact internally, externally. Like this particular aeroplane, that they know exactly which part number, whether KLIA got the stock, how much will the cost, and etc. Okay? So if you can map this, why can't we map our enterprise? And of course, on the right hand side is the iPad. It's nice, isn't it? How many buttons does iPad has? Arguable one. Of course, the side got the volume and the on-off. 3 buttons. But most of the time, you press the bottom part, right? The rest is touch screen. So have you seen behind the scene what happened? Someone need to draw this map, isn't it? If you don't know this map, how does that work? If certain function don't work, you go repair the device. What do? They open the map. Oh, this one broken, the particular chips. I need to replace. So now for enterprise, how do we fix that? You call the departmental head meeting, right? Have you ever go to the management meeting? After they talk about half a day, nothing concluded. The conclusion is what? They need to check with their team on the ground. That's very interesting. They need to find out more on the ground. After that, the ground meeting, another 10 meeting. They still cannot switch off. Why? Because there's something that they don't know what they don't know. Okay? So the cycle is very, very long. Okay? So how do we overcome this? So this is the concept of the digital map. Right? If you can see just now the aeroplane, why can't we have this map for my enterprise? So that I know the impact from the business side, information from the services, functions, process, department, strategy, motivation, application, infrastructure, etc. How can we map that? This actually is the concept of the Lego. Remember transformer? You should be able to transform, right? So this is the real enterprise model for the map. It's something like the GPS nowadays. Any one of you still have a street directory in your car? You printed the whole Klang Valley, including Kedah, Kota Baru, everything you have in your car. I can imagine your car may be very happy, 200 kilograms on the map. Yeah? And some more obsolete. The last time printed is January, now already come out to 10 road or in Kedah, you don't know. You go visit your friend, yeah? In the map, cannot be found. Right? Now what do? Handphone what? Loading the phone, they navigate for you. Okay? So, these are same thing with the enterprise today. Why can't we have that information? Instead of we keep stopping on the roadside, go to petrol station, ask the address, everybody tell a different story lah. Okay? So they got the process of how to manage that. Yeah? So I'm not going through in detail, but I want to highlight something here. How do we come out the map? Okay, so the process is this. This is our real world. Okay, you like it or not, we are already born in the era of, since we are small, we already play politics. Don't you agree? Anyone here? Unless you are the only kids in the whole family lah. If you got 2 or 3 siblings, what happened? See when your elder brother got the toy. You angry or not? Never mind lah, my elder brother deserves the toy lah. I don't need the toy. Is there such a kids in your house? 2 of them are very friendly one. One buy the toy, never mind. The other one is give up. One buy, the other one cry. After that, you buy 2 of them. After buy 2 of them, reaching home, 2 of them don't even touch. Then you buy another one. That's the cycle. So when we are small, we already trained to be playing politics. After that, we go to office, what happened? This what happened, isn't it? We are put in one department. And one department play politics with another department. Okay? So the system is political. Hey, this is my system, you don't touch it. Okay? Everything in the silo. So if this is your actual environment, how do you transform? Mission impossible. But good news is, there is a way to do this. Okay? So the way to do this is come up with the meta model. What's meta model? Meta model, if you see the human body, it's the structure of the organ. From the skeleton, to the brain, to the eyes, to the nose, to the tongue, to the throat, to the lung, everything. If you come up with the skeleton, including the nervous system, then you can start analyzing. If people say, why my finger cannot move, this is the finger, they can analyze the nervous system that's controlling the little finger. Okay? If you have the meta model, otherwise, no meta model. Right? Like you study biology, study physics, they got the meta model. So how do we come up about this? We need to come up with the meta model of your enterprise. Just now you see the aeroplane. It's the block that you can come up. Then after that, you bring it to every aspect of your enterprise. You map them one by one. Without realizing it, they all will be connected. It's the same thing like this. You want to come up with the GPS of the Kuala Lumpur. Okay? So what happens? You come up with the meta model of the map. Then you bring it to Apang, you bring it to Ceras, you bring it to Kajang, you bring it to Selangor, you bring it to Seremban, Bangi, Johor, all the way to Kota Baru. Everything after that, connected. Get that message? Once they want to fill out the thing, then you put it into the repository and you start doing analysis, transformation. This way you do transformation at the right bottom. Without that, how do you transform? Very tough. You transform something, you break another 10 new problem. Okay? So how do we do that? So there is, of course, the good news on the Archimedes. They got the Lego block that you can assemble. And they got multiple colors. Yes, they got yellow, blue, green, red, purple. All have a different meaning. The yellow mean is the business aspect. So anything you talk about the business, you can assemble them. And you connect them into the meta model. Then from there you can navigate. Okay? So with that, let me just play you a video about 3 minutes about this Lego concept in the building. Give you a very good analogy. Yeah.
Why enterprise architecture? Well, here's a reason. Michael works at our company. Now, because of new business demands, he's in need of specific data. But his data is spread out over different applications. Exclusively for Michael, a developer writes a program that'll get his data from applications A, B, and C and write it to an Excel file in directory Y. That way, Michael will be able to read all the data in his spreadsheet and use it. Michael then realizes that he needs this on a daily basis. It would save a lot of time if the program ran automatically every day. Therefore, an infrastructure manager writes a batch job to set this up for him. Now, an application flow has been created, especially for Michael, which depends on a number of other applications. But Michael is not the only one who wants to improve his efficiency, so multiply this situation by a few thousand. We call this hairball architecture. Think of it as a huge hairball with fibers going in every possible direction. No one's keeping track of it, and no one has control over it. Now, imagine we have to replace a huge application because it's out of date, and the supplier has said that in 2 years they'll stop the support. We have no idea what the application is connected to. It's an endless network of dependencies, which were all created one at a time. And each connection made sense at the time, but the total is such a chaotic situation that it's impossible to change one aspect without damaging something else. Now, that's where enterprise
This is Lego
architecture
concept.
comes in. We have to deal with the IT landscape in such a way that people have the freedom to create improvements and that there's always room for innovation. Architecture makes sure that our IT landscape is robust as well as flexible and efficient. This requires a process to keep things organized. For this reason, each new project needs a project start architecture. This is created by a project architect who is part of the project team. He or she writes a plan explaining how the total landscape will look when the project is complete. This plan includes the applications we've set up, what they do for the business, and the hardware they require. The project start architecture is evaluated by the architecture board. In this board, architects from every domain in our company work together and supervise the entire landscape. Summarized, enterprise architecture is about three things. We take a look at the existing situation. We help to develop and evaluate designs, and we create a sketch for the future so that everyone understands the direction we're heading. Architecture is about insight and knowledge. The world doesn't lend itself to being easily understood or pinned down in rules. There's no way we can know what the regulators are going to say to us 3 years from now. But what we can do is make choices which will ensure that we will be flexible, robust, and efficient in the future. Because in the end, it's all about maintaining our ability to change. That's why enterprise architecture.
Okay, you see the Lego just now? This is where I think most of us don't have at hand the information. Okay, so typically that information residing in multiple departments, residing in multiple departmental head, then typically they're also not sure about their detail, right? If because the thing changes and the complexity keep increasing. All right, let me just continue with something quite encouraging. This is actually Gartner predicts of the 2019 about enterprise architecture, that enterprise architecture team will evolve as an internal management consultancy. You know what's management consultancy traditionally, or maybe even now? They're typically asked to advise on the industry, on the outlook, on the forecast, on the future of our enterprise, our organization, right? And typically their rate is standard. One slide like this about $50,000 US, regardless of any currency they will charge in US dollar. And of course, all the listed company, blue chip company, like to hear what they sing, because the song is very pleasing to the ear, right? And of course, execution is another story. But now, what Gartner says is that the enterprise architecture team will be taking over their position. Because why? Enterprise architecture team know the whole landscape of your enterprise. They know exactly what you have, what you don't have, what are the issues, because you have the map, right? Then from there, you can start advising, evolve, right? Instead of listening someone from outsider don't understand. They don't live with you. But architecture team live with you, suffer with you, happy with you, sad with you, and in the one family. Okay? So with the ability of what the enterprise architecture team or knowledge, skill, framework that available today, they should be able to advise the enterprises moving forwards. Okay? So with that, I want to share with you on the enterprise architecture role. Okay? What are the roles out there and when you call enterprise architects? Okay, so there are 5 roles here. Of course, they got the business architect, they got information architect, they got infrastructure architect, they got software architect, they have solution architect. Okay, so the names are interchangeable, especially for the information architect. People call it data architects. What's the difference? Same lah. Okay, we don't need to argue until the cow go home. Information or data is the same lah. Same thing with the software. People call it software architect, application architect. Same. Infrastructure architect, some people talk technology architect. Same. So here I'm not entertaining the debate between the two names because they got 2 or 3 organizations in the world, they're using a different name. But after you study, it's the same thing. Yeah? So let's go through first thing on the business architecture, specialization. What do business architect do? Okay? So of course, business architect create and owns business technology strategy. Nice, isn't it? Now the business architect need to know the technology strategy. for the business, of course. And of course, business architect is what they call it also digital strategies. You want to come up with strategy digitally, talk to the business architect. Okay? And business architect typically have the balanced knowledge between technology as well as the business, and they understand the impact that inter or intra connect between the two domains. And business architect actually is the enterprise troubleshooter. So any issue that you come with the enterprise, you call the business architect. What do? They open the map just now. They analyze, is this caused by the people? Is this caused by the process? Is this caused by the policy? Or is this caused by not putting the right people on the job? Or this is caused by the technology. Why? Because when we do this process to that process, we need to export to Excel, we import to another system. Because why? The system is not linked. So business architects should be able to troubleshoot that, right? And of course, they look at the business capability. How can we improve my capability roadmap? Now you understand what Gartner says that architects will perform the role of management consultancy, because they understand this. If you have the business architect, of course, if you don't have, then it's very tough, right? The next one is information architect. What do? Or data architects, if you don't like the word information, doesn't really matter. Okay? So information architect role is someone who owns the data dictionary and taxonomy governance. So they know all the connectivity in the entire enterprise, right? They know what are the data source, how you need to present the data to the business, how the business can use or leverage the data for decision making. Okay? And the second role of the business data architect or information architect is that he or she is an information strategist. Of course, at this juncture, I want to touch a little bit on the data scientist, because I think the debate has been going on and on. Data scientist is a very powerful role. Okay, so data scientists typically take the blueprint of the information architect and then they execute. Okay, they know exactly how to connect, using what technology, which platform, what are the interfaces. This data scientist job. But information architect connect the whole enterprise, and they know which are information strategies for which particular department. And another thing, you see the second comment, second word there highlighted, the word business. What does it tell you? As an information architect, you also need to perform the role of business architect. That is tough, but no choice. If you cannot perform the role of business architect just now, you don't call yourself an architect. You can call it data scientist, or principal data scientist, or chief data scientist, but you don't call it architect. Because architect need to master the role of business architect. You understand the strategy, you understand the motivation, you understand the linkages, you understand the impact, you understand all the enterprise troubleshooter. Okay, so this is the demand expectation if you call yourself as an architect. Yeah, and the last point on the information architect is that it's an information troubleshooter. Okay, and they know all the potential data inconsistency that may impact business decision making. Okay, this is the job of the information architects, which is very, very critical. Yeah, and every architect, as just now I mentioned, need to be, if you are not a full-time business architect, you need to be able to perform the role of business architect. If you're a software architect, you need to perform the role of business architect. No other option. Okay? Have you ever thought, in most of the cases, yeah, I come across those so-called C-level, right? How to become C-level, yeah, in the organization? Is it tough? Very tough, trust me. Especially the organization in the few hundred or few thousand. Only one C, what? How many C you have? Got A, B, C, D? No, only one C. It's not vitamin C. C, chief. Only one, right? Especially CIO, Chief Digital Officer. How do you climb to that role? I've read through a couple of the CV. Most of them, yeah. Most of them at that level, typically they have a degree in the computer science. I'm talking about general, yeah. And after that, along the way, they have degree in MBA. Why they need to take MBA? Why they need to take MBA? Because to switch their mind to understand the business. And from there, they look back at the technology, how that impact the whole enterprise. Then you can go up to the top. Right? Or they have somehow exposed into the business that they have a keen interest. If those who are keen with the technology itself, you cannot become the chief. The most you become what? The geezer. Or they call it nerds. Cannot even talk to people, right? So these are the typical challenges on the career path for IT. Yeah. So let's move on into software architecture specialization. What does software architect do? Of course, they understand the whole application component and connectivity. That is the keyword, yeah, connectivity. They know exactly the whole landscape of the application, and they come up with the roadmap, you know. By next year, I need to, what they call it, removing the shadow system. Shadow system means the system that are not supposed to be there, but were there and used widely, and how can I manage that to become an enterprise platform? So this is the job of the software architect. It's very demanding, yeah. And of course, application strategies and also application pattern to support the business. Again, as a software architect, you need to perform the role of business architect. So if you claim yourself as an architect, we go into the business meeting, you should be able to carry yourself. Understand all the business jargon, terminology, and the impact. Hey, if you are a business architect, but after that you talk about the business meeting, you say, can I send my boss? Because I'm not so sure, etc., then you don't call it architecture. Okay? And the next one, of course, application troubleshooter, then understand the business process flow. So they know this process to that process, which system that they need to flow the information. All the job of the software architect. So all these are very, very key. Yeah? The next one is infrastructure. So what is the job of the infrastructure architects? Of course, they own all the name, all the terminology or the jargon in the data center, right? Network topology, compute environment, to ensure business continuity, that's it. If business don't continue, you call the infrastructure architects. So the infrastructure architect need to know the business in depth. Need to perform the role of business architect, right? Then the second point is, of course, technology strategies and understand the landscape to support the business. That's it. They create the whole infrastructure. They understand the whole business growth, business challenges, business solution, capability, etc. And they design the whole landscape environment to support that. Yeah. So this is also another issue that many of us, typically, the people performing the infrastructure have a limited knowledge on the business. That's why the architect itself forces you to become a business architect. Okay. And of course, the last one is the technology troubleshooter. And understand the technology disruption, basically continuity, uptime, right? This is the job of infrastructure architect. And the last role is solution architects, yeah? So solution architect is the one that architect you put inside the project. I repeat, yeah? Don't use the word solution architect that you see in the current business cards. Most of the business cards today, when you claim yourself as solution architect, basically you are salesman. Okay, you do everything, you provide entire solution end to end. But the one I'm talking about, solution architect, is the one architect you put inside the project. So if the project 8 months, you put the guy there 8 months. You assign into the project solution architect. So they know the system implementation governance, and they know all the deploy development, system development, implementation to support the business. Again, the solution architect need to perform the role of everyone. Everyone, yeah? Not only the business. You need to know what data architect is doing. Data architecture can read, application architecture, technology architecture. Then you turn it into a solution. Solution is where you work very closely with the vendor. Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, etc. It's the job of solution architect. Okay? And of course, it's a system troubleshooter. And of course, understand the system being implemented to support the business. Okay? Let me just do my second last slide. Yeah, about this is IASA engagement model, right? So, you know, the middle part is all the architects playing a critical role. So I have gone through just now the role, roughly know the job. And now the highlight is that every architect, if you are not a full-time business architect, you need to be able to perform the role of business architect. Otherwise, architecture has no value, no business value. Yeah? So this is architect mandate. You need to deliver value, you need to have a coverage, you need to deliver quality, you have a so-called increased maturity. Right? And of course, the outside part is the nicest part, where the organization wants to transform. Yeah? We talked about just now the question talking about top leadership transformation. You are the leader in transformation. So everybody look up at you. So how do we become this? And of course, the center part is architecture team need to be strong inside. So like the balloon, yeah, got the air, strong, right? So then you can do top leadership transformation. Then you can also drive change, customer change. Because today in the digital era, customer expectation is very, very high. They expect things to be very instant and easy. They want self-service and etc. And the next one, of course, skill set transformation. Because we have gone through so-called now in the era of transition. Yeah, we need to transform ourselves to become digitally relevant. Otherwise, we become irrelevant. Okay? Those of you who are here above 60, you can make yourself irrelevant, right? Tomorrow can become a grandchildren, you become a grandparent. I hear this topic, I think I decided this afternoon I declare myself as a retiree. Can, if you're above 60. But those who are in the 20s, 30s, or early 40s, you better buckle up. Because we need to transform ourselves. Because the future jobs are changing, right? And of course, information transformation is very, very key. We need to drive that, and operating model transformation, and the last one is digital business transformation. How fast we can change that? Of course, the key is that if you have the map, you know how to assemble the Lego, you can transform your enterprises faster. Yeah. So my last slide is actually the message of the IASA president, Paul Price, about ITABOK 3.0. You know what's ITABOK? Arti architecture bukan omong kosong. BOK. Bukan omong kosong. Correct. It's body of knowledge, right? It's in the context that I've been involved in the BOK in the last, I think, 10 years. Whatever that we do, right, until we do it right, actually documented in ITABOK. So why do we want to waste time? Because ITABOK is a collaborative effort, started in, developed in the 2004, now it's already 2009. So already this year is the launch of the ITABOK version 3, which is more enterprise ready. Okay, later you see the video from Mr. Paul Price. ITABOK 2.0 is good for architecture team. But you want to talk about now just the network, you need ITABOK 3.0. So will be launched in Singapore in August this year. Okay, so after that we are rolling out to Malaysia after that. Okay, let's listen to the, it's just a 2 minutes video by Mr. Paul Price.
Started out as a compendium of skills, right? So the original ITABOK was what are the four specializations? What do you have to know to be able to do them? How do you learn what you have to know to be able to do them? So that's the origination of the ITABOK, and it happened 10 years ago, and we've done different versions since then. From there, though, we began to extract a method of practice, one that was very practical and that worked with an individual and teams of up to about 15. So our original ITABOK version 2, if you will, was about a team of 1 to 15 architects and the kind of basic things they needed to be able to do well. Business cases, architecturally significant requirements, architectural decisions and decision management, value capture, benefits realization, design trade-off analysis, quality attributes, that kind of stuff. The latest ITABOK actually expands that to kind of an enterprise-grade quality in the sense that it captures the skills architects need, their career path, what they have to learn to grow each of the skills individually, but also how to grow them in a team of 50, 100, 250. One of our organizations that's adopting it right now is 500 architects. So we're really building out a practice that works at the same scale as something like a SAFE or a TOGAF or a COVID or an ITIL. What it is, though, is actually a set of practical techniques, so canvases, what we call cards, to be able to do a lot of these architectural initiatives, but to do it in a digital transformation focus, right? So focusing on digital businesses, digital customers, digital employees, and digital operations in such a way that all of those pieces work together, including things like business architecture, information architecture, infrastructure architecture, and to do so in a value generation, on a value generation basis. So it answers critical questions about practice in a still a very practical way, but in a way that scales up much better.
All right, I think I end my presentation. And yep, thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Aaron. It was certainly very, very intense.